the makeup and the people who were now in the, let's say, in the minority for a change, they couldn't handle it. And the white community started complaining. And they started complaining to Sachs about not being able to speak at the board, not getting answers, and all of these sort of things. Well, my letter to Sachs in August 2008 said, I'm complaining about demotions, transfers, right to participate in a public workshop, a board meeting, segregation in the workforce, lack of confidence in decisions being made, violation of the Georgia Open Meeting Act, violation of oath of office of the public official, and nepotism. So that's what I sent them. Sent it to them time after time, broke it down, even sent them the letter that they were bold enough to send me. Then Governor Sonny Perdue, I sent him the same report and the same letter. And he did write back and say, if this is true, according to the Georgia Constitution of Article 8, then the school board shall control local education. In other words, if the white folks voting that way, then I got to deal with it. So I went and looked to make sure that article was still in effect now. And it is. So why is it that now when black folks making the decision, this article no longer counts? When you got 6 people who are voted in that represent 22,000 people of the population in Sumter County, you got 3 people over here who represent approximately 11,000 people. And now you're going to say that the 22,000 who voted these people in, vote no longer counts because now white people are complaining to Sachs. I got a problem with Sachs because I and we made the exact same complaint that they are now investigating, and they basically told me to kiss their butt. That's what it actually amounted to. They did not come one single step. The doctor that was here, I forget her name, said Jay Walsley. That was one of the ones that I was talking to then, and a bunch of them. And to show you how we went down that same road, we have letters where they said that they had contacted the Attorney General. They contacted George Hooks and Mac Chokus and so on. Well, here's our letters. We wrote every single one of those people too, asking for them to come and give us some help. And none of them showed up yet. But the minute the white folks complained to Sachs, they came in on a white horse ride and said, you Negroes got to get yourself in order because y'all making these white folks mad in Sumter County. I mean, I'm just telling you like it is because I ain't telling you what somebody told me. I got the paperwork here to prove what I'm saying. I got Sachs letters here where they responded back to me to prove what I'm saying is true. That they only responded when white people complained. So how you going to tell me that that's a dysfunctioning board? If I look at Sachs within itself, they are dysfunctioning. They are appointed people. And when I look who in this room, most of these folks in this room look like me. But look who's finna make the decision about our children in Sumter County. The children that was in the county where these people come from. The children over there. Who finna make those? Somebody that don't even look like us. If you look at the state school board, 13 members, only one of them black. So that means what? Every vote they take is going to be a dysfunctional vote. Don't care how they vote. Then they send up there going to dictate to us. How?
That would be your testimony. Okay.
Good testimony, Doctor. Education.
If I may,
please.
from the Sachs report regarding Sumter County. page 3, it says there is a consistent division on the current board. Generally speaking, many important issues find the same 6 members voting in favor of an action, while the other 3 members vote against the action.
Page 3.
That's page 3 of the Sumter
Read that
County
again.
report. There is a consistent division on the current board. Generally speaking, many important issues find the same 6 members voting in favor of an action, while the other 3 members vote against that action. That's what it says. That's a basis for finding a governance problem. But that is contrary to state law. That's contrary. In fact, what the legislature did most recently was pass, well, I don't know if it's been signed into law by the governor, but because we had 6 board members in Sumter County that wanted to continue to try to resolve the issues, you had 3 members who said, no, we want to go to a hearing, even if that means we get suspended. Go figure that. The state board, there's a bill pending now that says when the majority of a board votes to continue a hearing before the State Board of Education, then the State Board of Education shall be given the ability to continue the hearing. Prior to this, now this is something we sued on, because we said that you can't allow one school board member to cause an entire board to lose its accreditation. And the way the law was written, that's what you had going on in Sumter County. Fortunately, the state legislature appears to be trying to address that issue.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
can we just ask the attorney, what was the racial makeup of Warren County?
When Ms. Roberts was on the board, it was 3-2.
3-2.
It was 3-2.
3-2 correct.
It was majority black, 3-2 once she took off.
Well, she took out
Oh,
before
it was 4-1, but you had one board member that consistently did vote with.
But before she came on the board, was it 3-2?
There was a point where it was 3-2 majority white.
Majority white, then
Correct.
it changed to majority black, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
But, Attorney Watkins, this is what my concern is.
Yeah.
Because basically, what you said is that the legislature has to fix the problem.
Legislature has to fix the problem.
And I guess that is what our primary concern is right here as legislators, is that if there is a problem, it was a problem that was created by us. So basically, the fix has to come from the legislature. Because it sounds like everything that everybody has done has been in accordance with the laws that we gave them. Is that not so?
Yes, but I think the way the law was interpreted,
Okay.
Title 45.
Title 45, 1,
Right, that was different.
and under Title 20. It was the way it was interpreted until most recently after we filed for this injunction, and it seems to have kind of shaken things up a bit.
Okay, so basically what we gave them was a law that was not, it seems as if it was not just and did not meet the constraints of being constitutional.
In its application, potentially, the court could have reached the issue of it being an unconstitutional application, but they really kind of avoided that. They said that they construed Title 45 strictly because it mentioned general statutes, which are boards created by general statute, not boards created by the state constitution. So if you tried to apply to a local board of education, it could be deemed unconstitutional in that regard. Unconstitutional application.
At the end of the day, what I would like for us really to be trying to move to is this. Where the law, it seems as if there is a possibility for unequitable application of the law as it is written. So what our goal should be, and part of the reason why we brought state school board and the boards and superintendents and all of the accreditation areas in, because they're actually working in this process. What can we do in order to structure state law such that what we come up with is fair and that it is equitable? and it meets the constraints, the constitutional constraints that we want our citizens to be able to abide by or to live by. So I really hope you help us come up with some, and give that some thought.
Well,
and all of you all who've been involved in this process.
Well, one suggestion is that it needs to be a statute that says that a board member can only be removed if their conduct caused the loss of accreditation.
That's one of the things that I've been thinking on too, see, because basically, if one board member does something that causes a loss of accreditation, the law then says that all of the board members are subject to removal.
That's how it had been interpreted, even up through Sumter County. It's questionable whether or not that's the present position now being taken by the State Board of Education and the State Attorney General's office.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I would like to add one other thing that the governor did say in his letter
Yes, sir.
about appearing before the board, and I sent this to Sachs. He said that based on what I had sent him, that the school board was in violation of OCGA 20-2-1160, and they still never came.
Is that Purdue or Deal?
Purdue. That was back in, that was April 1st, 2009.
Could you tell us what that is?
Ma'am,
What was that? You read it?
a letter that he.
No.
The law.
The law.
Violation.
It's where they are supposed to allow me to speak, and then they are supposed to respond back. And that was one of my complaints as a stakeholder, which is what they are now saying that they used on page 3 to make their decision to take the accreditations away. But I got a letter from the governor in 2009 supporting that's what they were doing, but they never came one step to investigate when it was a majority white board.
Mr. Chairman, just one quick question. I keep hearing a common name by Dr. Cole and yourself, and that common name I keep hearing is Jay Wansley.
Yeah, well, he
Now,
was.
Jay Wansley, could you explain what capacity was he in at that time?
He was, let's see, he was something there with Sachs. One second, I should have it right here.
Do you know who Jay
Investigator?
Wansley is?
He was one of
Dr. Elbert, could you tell us?
Sorry. He works for me, he's associate director.
Okay.
He's in Henry County, and he's African American.
Okay. Okay. Well, listen,
Reverend Wright, we certainly appreciate you coming from Americas, all the way from Sumter County, South Georgia, to come up and share your testimony with us. Ma'am, I'm sorry,
I'm just a better half.
oh, Mrs. Wright. Reverend Wright, you married up.
That's right, I sure did.
Brian, thank you very much. Okay, at this time, we would like to bring forward Dr. Elgar. We're certainly honored to have you here. Yes, sir.
so you can have an opportunity. I gave you some things that I think might kind of hit the old overview of some of the stuff that we've been talking about, addressing some of the questions that I think people want to see.
Representative Dukes and members of the caucus, I appreciate this opportunity this evening to share with you information about our organization and hopefully provide you some information pertaining to what your concerns are relative to the current laws in Georgia. My name is Mark Elgard. I serve as President and CEO of Advanced Education. It's a parent organization for Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. It's early childhood, K-12, and post-secondary career and technical work. And what I'd like to start with is a quote from the Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. What's the quality of your intent? Certain people have a way of saying things that shake us at the core. Even when the words do not seem harsh or offensive, the impact is shattering. What we could be experiencing is the intent behind the words. When we intend to do good, we do. We intend to do harm, it happens. What each of us must come to realize that our intent always comes through. We cannot sugarcoat the feelings in our heart of hearts. The emotion is the energy that motivates. We cannot ignore what we really want to create. We should be honest and do in a way we feel it. What we owe to ourselves and everyone around is to examine the reasons of our true intent. My intent will be evident in the results. At Advance Ed and Sachs, our intent is to impact the outcomes for children in classrooms and overall improve their educational experience and performance. The Southern Association of Colleges and Schools was created in 1895 by a group of college professors who gathered at Georgia Tech here in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's been here since 1895. It is one of the 6 regional accrediting bodies in the country. Regional accreditation was established in the 1800s. Sachs is the second oldest regional accrediting agency in the United States. Its relationship to Advance Ed, 3 of the 6 regional accrediting agencies today are operated under Advance Ed, and it's at the early childhood, K-12, and career and technical work. The college divisions of the regionals remain independent of each other and independent of their K-12 sister agencies. Primary purpose, even since 1895, has been from recognition of quality institutions or effective institutions. Colleges wanted high schools accredited to approve the quality of the curriculum that they were providing their graduates. From recognition to improvement. Ultimately, the goal of accreditation at any level is improvement. Today, Advance Ed is the world's largest accrediting body. We work with over 32,000 public and private schools in 71 countries, serving over 20 million students. Every type, shape of school you can imagine, in every type of situation, from urban to extraordinarily rural, the outbacks of Montana and Alaska, to countries abroad, including Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Argentina, China, all around the world. We've had an important role, Sachs, in the evolution of the South in education. And it's a role you may not be aware of, a role which I've been here for 20 years. And I'm very proud to be associated with the impact the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools has had on education in the South. Prior to 1965, elementary and middle schools were not accredited. We weren't accredited basically anywhere in the country. The process of accrediting elementary and middle schools began in the South. One of the best advantages of that is Sachs established criteria upon which these schools would be accredited. Because prior to 1965, an elementary school didn't have a library, didn't have guidance counselors. These kids, whatever the resources the local community had, went to the high school. Elementary and middle schools, they didn't have the resources they had today. Sachs established, long before any of the states did, criteria for elementary and middle schools, from teachers being certified to librarians to libraries to guidance counselors to assistant principals. Sachs played a critical role. You may not know, but Sachs played a significant role in the civil rights movement. You may think that governance is a new issue with Sachs. Sachs has had governance as one of its 5 standards for nearly all of its existence. When colleges and universities and public high schools, who are subject to the laws of the land, both state and federal, resisted following through with the laws under the civil rights, Sachs held those public institutions accountable. Against great pressure, held those accountable, put them on probation for failure to follow state and federal laws regarding desegregation, and held firm, even though, because of its history, a lot of the Sachs members were private institutions who were not African American represented. But Sachs held firm and has held firm on that principle over the years. We are recognized in all 50 states, something that the state body that you had earlier, Georgia Accrediting Commission, is not. It's an advantage to every student in the state of Georgia that they can go with the fact that when they graduate from an accredited high school, by SACS, it's recognized worldwide. There are no barriers to their ability to gain scholarship, to enter into college, to be eligible for the armed services. You may not know we accredit all the armed service schools around the world. Have served those schools for over 50 years, Department of Defense. And it's required that you have a diploma from a accredited high school in order to get into the armed services today. Federal functions. One of the biggest outlays of federal dollars, well, it is the biggest outlay at the post-secondary level, is Title IV money. And the accrediting bodies play a gatekeeper for Title IV money, which are student loans. And they have to be, post-secondary schools or college universities have to be accredited by a recognized agency, which we are one of them, for Title IV purposes so they can offer student loans. So historically, state and federal governments have chosen to use the accrediting process, or the results of that, for certain gatekeeper functions. And the state of Georgia, as you know, has used it for the Hope Scholarship. State of Florida, public college, university in the state of Florida, you are not allowed to be admitted through the regular process unless you graduate from a regionally accredited high school. State of California, the same thing, and other state scholarship programs have similar requirements. How are our schools accredited today? Very similar to what they have been accredited. It's a volunteer process. It's a process schools select who they want to be accredited by, and they understand that they have a role in establishing the criteria and implementing the criteria. Every school or system first goes through a self-analysis. They evaluate themselves against that criteria, and they provide us the evidence of whether or not they meet that criteria. Then we appoint volunteers, mostly volunteers. Sometimes we have staff involved, but we have over 18,000 volunteers around the world who serve as our reviewers. These are other educators. They could be other people on boards of education. They could be people who have been in education but are no longer. We even have some business people. We have people who are in your role who have served on teams as reviewers. They go in and evaluate the schools or school system's self-evaluation of itself. They apply the criteria. And the criteria is around three major areas. The first is standards. We have 5 standards. Not one, we have 5. The first is their vision and purpose. We want to understand where they're headed. What are they ascribing to achieve with kids? That gives us our lens. The second standard is on governance and leadership. The third standard, the most important one, where over half our criteria is embedded, is teaching and learning. The fourth standard is resources and support systems, how they use the resources available to them and what support systems they give kids each and every day to be successful. And the last is their ability to continuously improve student achievement. Only 5 out of our 34 criteria have anything to do with governance, and leadership. Most of our criteria, 21 of our criteria, have to do with student achievement and the quality of teaching in classrooms. That's where most of our focus is. To give you an example of how that criteria is applied, I'll share with you in a minute. I forgot to give you the other 2 areas we look at when we go into schools and systems. The first is standards. The second is student performance. We ask a school or system, what are your performance metrics? What do you look at to determine whether kids are being successful? So in every state, there's different state criteria. We want them to look at least at the state criteria. We encourage them, because the state criteria only tests in certain areas. We want to know, how do you know kids are successful in your art program, your music program, your foreign language program? The state doesn't test there, but what are your performance metrics? We want to know, are you being successful? And we do private schools who are not subject to state tests, so they have to define the criteria and how well they're doing and give us evidence that they're improving student achievement. The third area is the stakeholders. And we identify the key stakeholders as students, parents, and educators. And they're required to provide surveys, which we provide them at no cost, to share with these stakeholders and get feedback and monitor that feedback. And we want them to be responsive, because schooling is a community activity. Even a private school has their own community. And the community and the school have to be in sync for an effective environment of learning to happen. So there's 3 elements: standards, student performance, and stakeholders. In the fall of 2012, this recent fall, we did almost 1,000 evaluations across the United States and abroad. Almost 1,000. 50% of our schools and 80% of our school systems came out with some accreditation sanction for improvement. Because the evaluation is the beginning of a journey of improvement, not the end. So it's not unusual for, after a full evaluation, for a school to be placed in some sanction for improvement or some system. And in fact, most of them expect it because they use the process. They want to know where they need to improve and how to improve. Only one system in the entire country that had an accreditation sanction, the entire world, because those 1,000 were across the world, were placed on probation for governance. Only one. The vast majority of the sanctions against schools and systems had to do with student performance and teaching and learning, not governance. Governance is a rare act by Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. Less than 0.5% over the last 10 years of our actions have related to governance. Unfortunately, the media and everyone else exposes it as a vehicle that, because it involves elected officials, that it is the focus of our attention. It's not. What we look at, and we understand the political infighting that happens in a democratic process. We don't require unanimous